welcome, I guess, to my clinical trial vlog. I guess we'll call it a vlog. My name is Helena. I am 40 years old and I have been diagnosed with MS for 11 years. Had my first symptoms around 12 years ago. I've been on disease-modifying drugs for just under 2 years, and I was going to talk to you a little bit about taking part in a clinical trial. I was going to do this as a series of diary entries as such, because I'm just at the start of the journey, hopefully. So I thought it might be interesting for you guys to find out what it's like. Because I certainly don't really know much about clinical trials myself. So a little bit of background about this trial. I am by no means a science expert, but this trial is looking at something slightly different when it comes to the trials that I've certainly seen before in the world of MS, at remyelination. So a lot of you, if you're already in the MS world, knows all about myelin and scars and all that. But for the people who don't know, in MS, when you're having an attack or a relapse, this can cause scarring in the brain. One of the reasons why MS is multiple sclerosis actually means many scars. And so when you have an MRI scan, you can kind of tell whether you have scarring or not. And once this attack has happened and the scars are there, then generally this causes all kinds of strange symptoms, which is kind of what MS is all about. So this trial is looking at a drug that could potentially, if it works, remyelinate, that is kind of regrow myelin on top of the scars. They've gotten as far as having this happen in animal research, but they haven't seen if it can happen on people yet. So this is where they're up to with this trial. What's another thing that's a little bit different about this trial is that it's not a new drug, it's an already existing drug that they're trying. So it's a cancer drug, and the idea is that if you're already using a drug that's already existing out there on the market, then you know that people tolerate the drug, and that kind of keeps the costs down, I guess. I think that's how it works anyway. So I saw this trial come up in the Bart's blog. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if you're not, go and read it because it's a good one. And they were looking for people to take part, and it was in Cambridge, which happens to be where I go to see my MS nurse and neurologist, so that was handy. And they were also looking for people that were taking a specific type of disease-modifying drug, which is one of the ones that I was on, and who could walk. I think that was the criteria anyway. So I thought that sounded quite interesting. So I fired off an email to my MS nurse, who very quickly replied to me and said, yes, it sounds like you could be the perfect candidate for this, so do you want me to forward on your details? So I said, okay. And then I had a phone call from one of the doctors that are involved in the trial, and he said, shall I send on some more information about this trial? And I thought, well, yeah, why not? No time like the present. So I got this, it's a quite big document, say 13 pages, and it starts with like what the purpose of the trial and what will happen, and how is it going to be, like what's each appointment going to be like, MRI scans, visual evoked potentials, so, and a little bit about this drug, which is called bexarotene. I think that's how it's pronounced. If you're familiar with MS drugs at all, you know that they're all quite crazy named, I find. I've always thought that there should be like a spelling bee or maybe even a pronunciation bee on how to say some of these drugs, because most of them are just impossible. Anyway, sorry, I digress, but that's the truth. So bexarotene is a drug that's already licensed in the EU for the treatment of a type of lymph node cancer. So that's what it does. So it has this whole long list where it says about potential side effects. And I have to say, I'm going to be fully honest now, that when I looked at this list, it scared me. It sort of says things like very common that your blood fat levels will go up. It might reduce the number of white blood cells, which might increase risk of infections. You can get a headache, you can get vomiting and diarrhea, all those kind of not nice things, but probably kind of livable things. Then it goes on to say things like swollen glands, dizziness, dry eyes, deafness, ankle swelling, weight gain, allergic reactions, infections, and all that. And it says majority of side effects could be treated, or that they're not, as horrible. And they will disappear once you stop taking it. But then it also points out, however, 2 patients out of 810 has died directly as a result of bexarotene side effects. Now, death is a quite big side effect, I would say. Probably not even classified as a side effect. But yeah, this really kind of made me think, whoa, actually, do I really want to do this? So when I spoke to the doctor again, I think it was the day after, I sort of said to him, well, please talk to me about this whole death thing, because that scares me. I know there's 2 cases out of 810, that's quite a lot of people. And what was this? So this was not in the case of people with MS, I don't think. And in the case where people taking this, they weren't being monitored as the monitoring of this drug trial will be. Like, this drug trial has got a very like the schedule for the actual monitoring is quite intense. I'm just going to see if I could find it, but oh yeah, here it is. So I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot of meetings and a lot of tests and things involved in it. So it's a pretty thorough thing. So he did kind of put my mind at ease by saying that, it's not like anything that you would fall dead from like that. It would be like your blood fats would go up, or something else like your thyroid would be causing problems. But we would notice this from the blood tests that you do when you come in for the tests, and we would give you medication to counteract that. And if the medications would show that they're not working, then we would take you off the trial. So that did kind of relax me quite a lot, because before then I kind of thought, no, I don't really want to do this. So I took the paperwork home to show to my husband, because I thought I really want him to be on board with if I'm doing this. I didn't say anything to him about like the thing that had really made me worried in the thing, because I thought if I say stuff like that in the first place, then he will already kind of know that this is something that's going to come up in the text. So he read it, and he said it sounded good. And then we spoke a bit about this whole fact that people had died from the medication, and as a result of the medication, I should say, result of the side effects of the medication. And he said that, well, the chances are so low, and also the fact that, what they told me about the monitoring is, it shouldn't happen. Okay, I'm going to be honest again. So another thing that really worried me about being on the trial, and this might sound super superficial, but it was weight gain. I have struggled with my weight my whole life, and I managed to beginning of this year, lose quite a lot of weight with going to Slimming World, and it took me a long time, and I really did not like the idea of weight gain being one of the side effects, because I struggled for so long to try and sort of get to a good weight, that I really didn't want to be putting it all back again. And they did say that actually people tended to be more like that. They lost weight on the trial. Other things that I was worried about was the levels of fatigue and dizziness and all that sort of stuff. Would it stop me from doing work? I work 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days I look after my kids. I find that's a good work-life balance, because I do suffer from fatigue quite badly at times, and I think that had it been the case that the drug would be so fatigue-inducing, or whatever you call it, I probably would not be able to do it, because there was no way that I was going to want to stop working. So I did ask him that, and he said that no one that was on the trial so far and working had dropped out or felt that they had to stop working because of it. Now, I think it's kind of interesting, because for me, when I was reading the side effects, and I did think that, people would drop out because of the side effects. So I asked, when I came up after this chat with the doctor, they said, okay, we'll invite you to a informal conversation about it. So I went up and I saw Professor Coles, who is in charge of the trial, and I asked him, what's the main reason why people are finding hard to be in this trial? Fully expecting him to say stuff like, oh, feeling really horrible or headachy or too tired to perform work, or, feeling sick or whatever. And he said, number one, the size of the medication. And then he took out this bag, and I wish I took a picture for it, but I didn't. And took up this bag and said, here's the medication, and you need to take, I think it's 6 of them, and they're massive. They are really huge. So yeah, you kind of look at them and you think, how am I going to be? Oh well, I'll approach that when that day comes. But yeah, they are humongous. So swallowing the actual tablets, the issues of actually going to order monitoring, because you will, the first month you basically go once a week. First you go there to have your blood tests and everything, make sure that you can go on the trial. And then that's clear, then you go for a baseline check, where they will do things like MRIs and evoke potentials and all sorts of stuff to figure out where you're at. Then you get your medication, then you start taking your medication, and then for that first month you'll go up every Tuesday in my case, and have it checked. They check your blood, you have to fast beforehand. Not sure I will cope without the coffee, but so you fast beforehand, they take the test, and then if everything's okay, you continue on and take it for another week. And then once that first month is gone, then you go once every month for 6 months, and then you stop taking the drug. And then you come back 3 months later, and they check whether everything's out of your system and everything's good. So that's it. So it's quite a short trial, really, which is also quite appealing to me. So he said the amount of checks and things, that puts a lot of people off, because it's quite inconvenient, especially if you're working and you have got a family and having to travel up to Cambridge all the time, especially now when the trains are very messed up. But anyway, and then he said the other side effects that generally happens is things that you don't notice yourself. So you'll see it in your tests. So in your blood tests, you'll have the blood fats going up, so then you have to take medication for that. Or your thyroid might go on, I can't remember if it's up or down. And then you have to take some medication for that. So you basically become a bit of a rattling pill bottle, I think. So, yes, they're all annoying things. They are. But for me, they didn't seem scary enough to put me off wanting to try doing this. So then he asked me, why do I want to do it? So I said, well, I've always liked the idea of doing my part for science. You know, I've had MS for a long time, well, relatively long time. I work for the MS Trust. I see a lot of information about research and all these exciting things that people are looking into. And I always liked the idea of contributing somehow. So he said, well, that was a really good reason to sort of think about doing the trial, rather than thinking that this was something that was going to cure me or fix me. And I hadn't actually thought about it like that, because I thought it's 6 months. It's not going to, you know, fix something it's taking, you know, I don't know, 12 years of giving me scars for. So I didn't really at all think that, oh, this is going to cure my fatigue and all these, you know, the cog fog's going to magically disappear and I'm going to be jumping out of this in 6 months' time and then going, yo! But I did think that if it's a successful trial, then obviously they will move on to do other stuff with it, and it would be amazing. It would be absolutely amazing if it would work. The next step is that I'm going to go up to the hospital and have some blood tests, and then they'll let me know for sure whether I can take part in the trial or not. So I guess what I want to say with this is, like, when you go into this kind of thing and you think about if you want to do it or not, the questions that you should ask, there's no stupid questions, you know, just ask them. I did feel a bit like silly to ask about the weight gain thing, considering that, you know, there was death and they were always like, oh, we're going to put on weight. But for me, it was a quite important thing. And then other things to consider is like the whole thing around it. Like, can you go to the trial? Can you get to the hospital? I got 2 kids. I take them to school in the morning. I couldn't do that. You know, could someone else take my kids to school? And I have a fantastic friend who volunteered to take them in. So, you know, have you got anything like that? Can that happen? Can your partner help you out with things? And what does work think? You know, what can they? Are they okay with it? Because it's 6 months of your life that you are dedicating to doing something like this. So it's a pretty major thing. So those are things that when you read these papers, you don't really think about, because you see something jump out at you like death, you know, and you think, oh. But it's more, as I realized when I spoke to Professor Coles, is actually the practicality of arranging all these things around going there. And, you know, do ask questions, find people that you can talk to about it. I mean, I am lucky that I got some really good colleagues here at the MS Trust that I could chat to. So I asked a lot about, like, what do we know about these trials? What do we know about the drug? Do you know, what is it used for? What's happening? And then ask opinions of people that you trust and love. I think I didn't post anything on Facebook. I quite often do, because I'm a big avid user of social media, and at work I do manage. I look after our Facebook group that the MS Trust have, and I do sometimes ask questions in there, just, you know, not as my work life, but as a person with MS, just to find out things, because people with MS have got a huge amount of insight. I didn't ask anything about this because generally clinical trials can be seen as, oh, that's a great thing, or it's like, oh, it's really, really dangerous. And I figured that would be too many opinions coming on to me. So I just thought, okay, I'll ask a select few people and see what they thought, and then I'll make my own mind up on it. But, you know, that's all what different people are. You know, I would say if you want the input from the MS community, Facebook is a really good place to go. Otherwise, you know, call up the MS Trust, chat to the people in the inquiry line, because they know a lot about what's going on in the world of research and what trials are out there and what's happening. So yes, talk and listen and think about it, and read these things, and if there are any questions, highlight them and then ask the people that you're seeing when you're talking about trials. And obviously it's not specifically for this trial, but for any trial that you might be thinking of doing, because sometimes you feel a bit silly when you sit in front of these really, really smart people, and you kind of go, oh, well, what about if I put on a pound? And you think that's so, shallow. But actually, it's, something that's going to impact your life a lot. So it's nothing, it's not a stupid question. We'll see what happens. I guess this is step 1. And then hopefully step 2 will be, step 2 will definitely be the test, because I know I'm going up to do that. And then I'll give you another vlog about that, and then I hopefully will know whether I'm going on to do the trial.